Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the A segment of episode 3 of The Loud House, Driving Miss Hazy. We begin this segment with Lori making Lincoln do her laundry in exchange for a ride to the comic book store. We soon see that she doesn't just do this to Lincoln, but she also bribes her sisters with rides to places they want to go in exchange for them doing something that she benefits from. A few examples of this include Lisa being made to do Lori's homework, or Lucy being made to make a poem dedicated to Lori and Bobby's dating celebrations. The poem in question for this segment reveals that the relationship started when Bobby left brownies in Lori's locker. We then see Lana find Lori's retainer in the trash can, but it turns out she didn't need a ride anywhere. She just likes digging through trash. Ugh. Lincoln then explains this to the audience, and we do get to see Lori's driver's license, which is one of the earliest, if not the earliest, instance in the show to confirm that the show takes place in Michigan, the fictional city of Royal Woods. And we see that Lori's middle name starts with the letter L, much like her first and last name. As he's off with the laundry, Lincoln accidentally runs into Leni, who's carrying around some tools. She took Lori's statements about making her bed too literally. Lincoln is confused, though, because Leni is 16 years old, the youngest age one can have a driver's license at least in Michigan. I'm not too sure about other states, and I'm sure the rules are different in other countries too, but I digress. Leni reveals that she tried taking the driver's test in the past several times, but never succeeded. The most recent example involved an incident regarding a fire hydrant, a paperboy, and a nun. Then we see a flashback where we don't see what happened exactly, we just see the end results. And Mr. Loud has the airbag in his face and he's in tears about it. Leni says everyone has given up on teaching her how to drive after that. But then Lincoln offers to teach Leni how to drive himself. He may not know how to drive, but he thinks that his racing video game can help. He then explains to the audience that if Leni has her driver's license, then the Loud siblings can go wherever they want without having to be bribed by Lori into doing her menial stuff for her. We then see a hypothetical example of Leni's driver's license, or Leni's hypothetical driver's license, and it shows that her middle name starts with an L as well. After some preparations, which includes a driving outfit that looks like a green version of the outfit Penelope Pitstop wears, I believe she originated in Wacky Races, then she got her own show after that, but that's getting off topic a little. Bottom line is, Leni's all prepared for the driving lessons, but she doesn't do too well at the game at first. But when Lincoln mentions that the mall is the end point of the game, Leni is on fire. And she makes it to the end with the new high score. Lincoln's sure that Leni may have a shot at succeeding at the driver's test this time, so she heads off to take it. Later on, she returns, but a police officer is with her and confirms that no, she didn't pass. He then reads off some of her misdemeanors, one of which includes hip-checking an elderly woman by the name of Mrs. Jelansky. Leni complains that when she did all that in the video game, she passed, so she says that they need to get their rules straight and then storms off. Lori sees this and she finds it amusing that Lincoln's trying to teach Leni how to drive, but she's confident they will fail, pointing out that Leni couldn't drive a lawnmower. We then see a flashback of Leni not doing well driving a lawnmower. Lincoln goes to see Leni, who he notices that she is continuing to literally make a new bed for Lori. But as Lincoln himself points out, the craftsmanship of the bed is amazing. But then he says that maybe the driving lessons through the racing minigame weren't the best course, and urges Leni not to give up, that they can find another way, and Leni's willing to give it another try. So the next approach is that Lincoln wants to set up a custom version of the inside of a car with like house items posing as parts of a car, thinking that might be better suited for it. The other Loud sisters, besides Lori, finds out and they want to help too, and Lincoln's more than happy to have their help. The more the merrier, after all. And so they put together a custom car, and they attempt to present different scenarios where you would have to use the different car parts. One of them involves Lily being in a squirrel suit, and it's rather cute. But it still doesn't go quite well. But when Leni refers to the turn signal as the blinky blink, that's when it hits Lincoln that the best way to teach Leni how to drive is to speak Leni. They also do this by, they exchange some of the custom car parts, or the hypothetical car parts are traded out for items that are more within Leni's line of interest, such as different types of footwear. And they use fashion lingo also to help Leni out, and she's doing better. When they have her try on the lawnmower, she does amazing. She could actually get her driver's license this time around. But Lori sees this from upstairs in one of the windows, and she is not willing to share the car keys with another sibling. At night, Lincoln wishes Leni luck as they all head off to bed. But after Leni falls asleep, Lori sneaks a pair of headphones onto Leni's ears, which also has a recording of Lori giving bad driving advice. The next day, Lincoln is waiting for Leni to return. Lori, however, appears and is insistent that Lincoln does her laundry in exchange for a ride to the comic book store, much like the start of the segment. Lincoln, though, ignores it, thinking that Leni will pass, but Lori is quite pushy about it. In fact, she's so pushy about it that she accidentally lets slip that she made sure Leni wouldn't pass, and Lincoln notices this and questions it. Lori attempts to deny what she said, but Lincoln won't let up, and he even threatens to shrink her favorite Bobby sweater to get her to talk. Fearing the sweater's well-being, she grabs it, puts it on, and then she admits that she sabotaged Leni's driving test, claiming that if Leni learned how to drive, then the other siblings would have no need for her anymore. Lincoln, though, points out that her method was incredibly foolish because the bad advice could get Leni hurt. Lori admits she didn't think this through all the way, and she and Lincoln rush to the DMV. When they make it, they see Leni is okay, but the same police officer from earlier confirms she didn't pass, and the misdemeanors listed are from Lori's bad advice. Lincoln tries to cheer Leni up, even though she's beating herself up over this, but guilt gets to Lori and she admits that she sabotaged Leni. Leni, being Leni, doesn't know what sabotage means, but when Lincoln describes it as Lori buying a dress that she knew Leni wanted, she gets it and she's horrified at what Lori has done. But Lori apologizes and she intends to make right by the situation. What is her idea of atonement? She takes it upon herself to teach Leni how to drive to make amends for it, her misdemeanor. The segment ends with one of these driving one of these driving lessons, and Leni took the phrase carpool lane too literally. Now, this was another segment I really enjoyed, and what I really liked about it was it helped to present something that an opposite extreme of a view by some fans. To be more specific at what I'm getting at, in my recap and thoughts for making the case, I said that I felt that it was a good example that showed Lincoln can have his moments of being selfish or being in the wrong, but he does at least make up for it. And in the case of making the case, it was an example that showed that Lincoln received a reasonable comeuppance, nothing exaggerated and or too cruel for what his misdemeanor was. Because there were some fans that do unfortunately embellish Lincoln's good qualities to the point where they ignore his flaws. There are some fans that go the opposite extreme where they ignore Lincoln's good qualities and act like he's always selfish or he's always the one who causes problems for his family. And I feel Driving Miss Hazy is a good example that shows while Lincoln can have his selfish moments, he can be selfless and he can actually really help his family out quite a bit. Because the segment pointed out Lincoln's motive for helping Leni learn how to drive wasn't just for his and Leni's own benefit, but for all of his siblings' benefit, so they wouldn't have to listen to Lori bribing them or have to do Lori's dirty work for her just to get rides to places they want to go. He was thinking about his whole family there. And he was very sincere about helping Leni out, which shows, yeah, he can be a nice kid. He can have his good moments. He can be selfless and be helpful. And the segment also did a good job at showing that, yeah, that some of the sisters can be selfish too, and that they can be not good at sharing too, because there were some, going along with how some fans say that Lincoln's always selfish, they also have this mentality that at least the sisters are better at sharing than Lincoln, and it's sometimes yes, but other times they can be just as selfish or just as bad at sharing, and this was a good example of that. Lori was the selfish one in this segment, and Lori was the one who wasn't good at sharing or the one causing the conflict of the segment. But they didn't vilify Lori. That was a good thing because, as I mentioned before, some fans do have a bad habit of exaggerating the Loud Sisters to irredeemable monster levels when that's not the case for them. They can still be good people, and they are good people at heart, even if they make very bad choices from time to time. And this was a good example of that. Lori, yeah, it wasn't right for Lori to pretty much bribe her siblings to do her dirty work for her, and it was wrong for Lori to sabotage Leni's attempts to learn how to drive. But we do learn that Lori's motive was more so because she feels she won't be needed anymore if Leni or any of the other siblings learned how to drive. And it doesn't mean it was right what she did. It doesn't say it was right for her to do that. It's just helping us explain this is why she acted the way she did. Because, as I've said in the past, understanding someone's actions is not the same as agreeing with someone's actions. And Lori did make up for her error. She admitted she didn't think it through all the way, and she did apologize, and she's making up for it by teaching Leni how to drive. And it does make me wonder, will Leni ever learn how to... Is there a possibility that we could see Leni driving in future segments? I realize Loud House is mostly an episodic series where usually what happens in one segment doesn't affect the others. But there have been examples of serialized aspects within the series. So I wouldn't rule out the possibility of Leni learning how to drive and it sticking in the future. I wouldn't rule that out just yet. So maybe we'll just have to be patient and see what happens. I also should mention, not counting the shorts, this was the first formal appearance of Mr. Loud. By formal appearance, I mean we actually see him on screen, since he was only heard off screen in Heavy Metal. Now, we don't see his face, but I should mention, at least for the first season, a running gag in the show is that we never see Mr. and Mrs. Loud's faces. Now, the second season, that's a different story, and we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So, overall, I did enjoy this segment a lot. I think it was a nice way to show that Lincoln can be selfless and have his good qualities. And it can show that the other sisters can be the ones who cause the problem in the segment, but that they're still good people who can make up for their bad choices. And it was fun to see Leni. She had a lot of funny moments in it. And it was also nice seeing the Loud siblings working together to help Leni learn how to drive. It shows when they do get along, when they're all on the same page, they can be a force to reckon with. So, yeah, that's it for today. Take care, and until next time.